Nice to see you.
To you.
Good. Well, I was just kind of explaining how I connected with you over social media. And I have to say that, you're one of my favorite people in the divorce social media niche because you really tell it like it is. And you not only kind of are very clear and concise about giving advice in terms of what people should be thinking about during the process, bringing up a lot of common issues that you find people making, as well as just kind of shooting straight from the hip. And as a New Yorker, which you are as well, I really appreciate that. But I'm just going to kind of jump in. And for anybody joining us, this conversation is going to last about 20 minutes. It's really about what to expect when meeting with a divorce attorney, when you should be meeting with a divorce attorney, how to prepare, all of those things. So if you have a question, feel free to drop it in. But I'm just going to kick it off right now, Dennis, if you don't mind.
Sounds good. Let's go.
So I think like the kind of the $1 million question a lot of people have is when you get to the point in your marriage where you're thinking that divorce or separation might be an option, even in its earliest instances, it can really knock you back on your heels. You're not sure what to do. When do you think the right time is to start taking meetings with family law attorneys if you're kind of at a point where you don't know if your marriage is going to survive or break up?
I think for most people, they don't really have any level of familiarity or underlying expertise with divorce law in their particular locale. So I think sooner rather than later, let's put it this way. The first time you're thinking divorce or it comes up in a fight and you're threatening divorce, that's the time to just get the lay of the land. Remember, no matter what anybody tells you, you are not obligated to do anything when you go in and meet with that lawyer. Unless they hide something or try to surreptitiously get you to sign something, look, just schedule a time to go in and talk to a lawyer, find the right one, and sit down and gather some information. It will help you get the lay of the land. And I think sooner rather than later is certainly better. And like I said, you're not obligated to hire them. You're not obligated to plunk down a retainer and start filing your divorce action. You have no obligation to do that. You're just there to gather some information.
I love that you brought up the fact that you don't feel obligated. I think there's this idea that all of a sudden, just because I'm meeting with a local family law attorney means I'm getting a divorce. That's not what it means. It just means you're kind of getting your footing on if things should move in that direction, what you can expect, what you need to be aware of moving forward so you can kind of prepare in advance and make smart choices. The other thing that I love that you said, and we talked about this on your podcast the other week, is really taking your time in these consultations to get to know the person that you're meeting with just as much as they're getting to know you to make sure that they're a right fit. And the fact that you said, please just don't automatically plunk down a retainer is such a great reminder of not feeling pressure in those meetings and being able to do your own assessment. For those joining us, I have a freebie download that you can access through the link in my bio, 24 questions to ask a divorce attorney or a mediator. It gets you thinking so you're prepared in advance because you want to make the most of your time, right, Dennis?
Yeah, and we talked about that before. Those are actually really good. They're really useful tools to just know. It just kind of like, because people, when they go in to meet with the lawyer, they don't know the questions to ask. And sometimes they have questions in their mind that they want to ask, but they're probably not the ones they really should be asking, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So again, not feeling obligated, having an idea on the questions you want to ask when you go in there. And, I've had clients say to me, hey, I'm coming in for a consultation. I'm interviewing lawyers right now. Yeah. That's the way you have to view it. It's not like you're going to go in there and hire the first lawyer. Mm-hmm. So, think of it like I'm interviewing lawyers to find someone who is a good fit for me. Yes. So, does it have to do with their expertise? Yes. Does it have to do with their reputation? Yes. But it also has to do with those intangible things like feel. Mm-hmm. And I've said to clients before, I said, look, when I do a consultation with a client, I'll say, look, if you feel like we can help you, think about it. It's a very important decision. We're here, 30 days from now, a year from now, 6 months from now, give us a call. We're always here to help. But I don't want them to feel the high pressure. I want them to feel like, hey, they have to be comfortable with the lawyer that's representing them. And it doesn't mean I'm not a great lawyer. I might not necessarily be the fit for everyone. It's a feel So again, you're going to ask the right questions. You're going to gather the information. You're going to do some background research on the lawyer, read some reviews, look at their credentials, and then go in and talk with them. And when you find the right fit for you, you'll know it. Even without any formal legal training, you'll know it.
Yeah, that's you're just bringing up so many great points that are all green flags. Somebody who isn't pressuring you to do something today, somebody who says, I might not be the right fit, but here's some ideas that I want to share with you.
Right.
Somebody who kind of is really being, even in that initial sit down, a little bit more collaborative and conversational, as opposed to if it feels like that they have an agenda. Those are great. Thank you so much for sharing those. What's one thing about the divorce process you think everybody should know? I mean, I'm sure there are like a million things, but like, what's something that really stands out about something people should know about the process before they head down that path?
I think my approach, even in my litigated cases, is it's always worthwhile trying to explore a settlement in your matter, trying to find a middle ground. And I think so many people now automatically assume their case is going to be contentious. There's no way they're going to agree to everything. And they don't really take enough time to explore, the option of trying to resolve something amicably. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be collaborative or mediation. Sometimes it is. You each have your own lawyers, and the lawyers are communicating, and you sit down at the table and you have a four-way conversation about, what's the best route for you. But I think don't automatically foreclose out of the gate trying to reach an amicable resolution, because think of it like this. About 95% plus of divorce cases are settled via an agreement between the parties, whether it's day one, whether it's day 60, whether it's 4 years from now on the courthouse steps on the day of trial. And ultimately, the judges want to see that. They do not want you to put your very special, very specific, important case in front of them and leave the decision up to a stranger. So really think long and hard before you determine, hey, we're going to go at it. I'm going to get a bulldog. We're going to drag it out. We're going to go back and forth. I don't consent. Before you go that route, really think about it and really explore your options.
It's so much great kind of meaty information. I think there's this idea, if you haven't educated yourself, which is something I'm always like preaching, please educate yourself before you even start the process. So you understand the different types of divorce you can get, whether, as Dennis, you were really kind of talking about this idea of like, just because you hire a family law attorney to represent you and your soon to be ex does as well, it doesn't automatically mean you're going to be in a court of law. It's a kind of negotiation. And I think people who don't negotiate normally in their lives don't realize that. And that's another part of kind of preparing for the process, is that kind of an awareness. And again, my coaching philosophy is built on the fact that there's an emotional side to divorce and there's a business side. You need to separate the two. But I also really encourage people, before you take your next steps, figure out what are your divorce goals, number one, and what is it that you want to kind of create for your life after divorce, because that's going to give you a great framework, or a North Star, if you will, to kind of then set every decision to make sure it aligns with that goal. So, and again, educating yourself about the different types of divorce. Dennis, you're not only a litigator, but you're also a mediator. And so it can go either way with you, right? And I think what people, I hope, take advantage of, and especially in this conversation with you, is having ownership and more control over the outcome of your divorce is really what you want, as you stressed so beautifully.
Yeah. And it's funny because think of it like this. The first thing we send to pretty much all of our divorce clients is a letter right out of the gate saying, hey, I need to know all of your finances, right? All the background information. What are your assets? What are your liabilities? What's your income? What are your expenses? List them all. And 9 times out of 10 clients are like, oh my God, this is such a pain in the ass. This is your entire financial life on roughly about 50 sheets of paper. It's going to ask you for all of the specifics about your custody and visitation situation. And it's going to ask you for a wish list. So think about it. Are these not also things you could be doing on your own, prepping right now, or at least thinking about them now? I find that many clients I send this initial letter to, they haven't even thought about a lot of these things yet. So I think a great piece of advice is, yes, distinguish the emotions from the nuts and bolts of it. I think very few people do that, and I think that would save them a huge amount of time and money and aggravation if they did that at the outset. And be organized in the preparation about all of those other things. And that's why what we talked about during the podcast. That's where I think resources that you have to offer, and just even just getting people to start thinking about that and getting the wheels turning in that direction early on, so that you're not waiting till, 6 months into the process before you really even broach those subjects with yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. That's exactly what the divorce planner is all about. If you're watching or listening to this and you are one of those people who's like, I don't know what they're talking about,
Right.
please head over to my website. I walk you through everything you should be doing. I've got lots of blog posts, that kind of walk through how to prepare for a mediation. If you're a stay-at-home parent, how to prepare, all of it, because the more you do up front and you are proactive, that is always the name of the game. You don't want to be reactive in making any big life decisions, whether it's divorce or anything else. I love that you kind of have, and I think that's what really attracted me to your content, Dennis, is you have this holistic approach. Like, you are no nonsense, but you get it. You're also operating on a very human level. And I really appreciate that, as opposed to kind of just being the bulldog out there. I really admire the fact that there's an authenticity about you and a genuine, desire to educate people. So thank you for that very much. You're blushing.
We have that in common. I think what I've tried to do lately, especially on social media, is to try to partner with people who share my care and concern for people.
Yeah.
I think us as lawyers and as professionals in general through the divorce process, we have for too long looked at these divorce cases like they're folders with names on them. They're not folders with names on them, they're people. And there's kids attached to that. So if you can't learn some things along the way about, it's not just, hey, let's get these clients in here and let's get their case out the door, and this is going to be this is going to be the child support, okay, and put them on a conveyor belt and they're in a shambles at the end. That can't be the future of this. It can't be.
No.
It can't be. I think in every other aspect of our lives as human beings, we're taking this holistic approach with our health and our wellness and everything else. Why not with the divorce process too, which, as we know statistically, is one of the 4 scariest things to human beings throughout their entire life. They're rating divorce up there with like a death.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
So we have to do more, and I think the holistic approach is the route that I would prefer to take. And even if I'm just doing the legal aspect of it, and then I'm saying like, hey, divorce planner, like, help them get prepped before they come in. Hey, divorce coaches, can you help them work through the process? No, what sort of emails do I need to respond to from my ex? Or counselor, if there's a domestic violence situation, help them heal, help them get through the process. All of these professionals can help, but we can do this better together than we can trying to have the lawyer be your therapist and your coach and your everything else, because we're not.
I 100% on the same page. And also what I think is really lovely about the divorce community, about this industry, is that it is growing authentically into that way. And there is this idea of like, oh, have your own divorce team. That's reserved for the 1%. What I love about social media is it's leveled the playing field.
Right.
You can have access to information from all these different walks of the process, whether it's coaches, whether it's financial planners, whether it's family law attorneys and mediators. So you can really get access to information that really was behind lock and key and huge billable hours before. So don't be intimidated. Between my website, link in bio, and I'll be linking your Instagram account, Dennis, as well, through his link in his bio and all of his social media. If you don't know where to start with our accounts. Just go start exploring. You're going to get a lot of bang for $0 to begin with.
And here's the thing. I think my advice to people, even contemplating the process, that's your first stop, or that's your first step, let's say. Because when you're going through the process, or you're even contemplating it, people are so fearful. Emotions are swirling 100 miles an hour. And why? Because of all the unknowns. Reach out to these resources that are free to try to gather information. As you gather information, you will find you'll get the calm. And when you can get your emotional calm, it will help you make really good choices, better choices throughout the process.
You just nailed it. You 100% nailed it. And I think there's also, look, there's been a stigma attached to divorce for a long time. It can come from a lot of different places, where whether it's from family, whether it is the way you were raised in your community, whether it's like picking up things from pop culture, it doesn't matter. Everyone, I love what you said earlier about everyone gets thrown challenges in life, whether you lose a job, God forbid, somebody gets ill, sometimes relationships end. Everyone gets, nobody gets out of this unscathed. And more often than not, like, big life challenges is the name of the game. So being able to kind of harness what you are in control of, take as much power as you can through educating yourself and preparing before starting your next steps is going to put you in the best position, not only to make smart choices, but as you and I always emphasize, to save time and money. Because the truth of the matter is, the cost of a divorce litigation has just exploded in this country over the past, 5 years or so. So being able to find somebody, if you're going to hire an attorney, who you get the sense that they want to be collaborative, that they want to kind of come up with a reasonable solution, as opposed to sitting down and kind of going with somebody who's like, I'm going to get you everything you want. You won't have to compromise on anything.
Right. Or worse yet, you have lawyers, I think a lot of them are like, when you do consultations, oh, well, this is your case, so don't worry about it, I'll take care of it, blah, 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 blah. You don't need to know all that. They are not in control.
Yeah.
You as the client are in control. They are there to provide you legal advice, and you make the ultimate decisions. And I tell clients, I say, look, those what I call high price tag decisions, they're the tough ones, and I can't make those for you. You need to make that decision. And I'll say, look, you need to decide, we're going to do trial, or we're going to accept this offer, or we're going to take less, or we're going to take more, we're going to argue for this or argue for that. Those major decisions are up to you. They're not up to the lawyer. And the other thing I'll add is, I find it so funny that people do really believe a divorce team is really only for the one percenters. But the reality is, an average fee for a divorce lawyer, start to finish, for a litigated divorce case in New York State is somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000. If you're calling me and asking me about things that are quasi-emotional things, or having me kind of talk you off the ledge,
Yeah.
I'll do that, but it'll come with the caveat of, I don't want to do that. And it's not that I don't care, and it's not that I'm trying to push you away. It's, I don't want to send you an invoice for a 2-hour phone call for, $395, $495, $595 an hour.
Yeah.
You can have your therapist or your coach help you with that at a much cheaper rate, and thereby puts me in the position where I have the time to bring you value where I can. My value is my legal training.
Yes.
What are the likely to do in this particular situation? What sort of evidence do you need? What are your rights? What happens with the property? That's my value. Take advantage of that. But calling me for emotional comfort, listen, I really want to do that, but it's not cost effective.
Yeah.
So it's actually more cost effective having a team where it's square peg, square hole, round peg, round hole.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And for people who might not know what a divorce prep coach does, my whole jam is preparing you in advance of meeting with Dennis, right? So you have access to all of your financial realities, a really detailed and granular understanding of how much money you have coming in and going out. You know what your assets are, their value, your attachment to them, who bought what. You have access to all of your essential documents and statements, and you have clarity about separating what's triggering me, what are my goals in this divorce, so that when you're meeting with Dennis, it's exactly what you said. You and your legal representative, you're a team, but nobody cares about the details of your life like you do. And if you don't have information, or if you don't know what your priorities are, somebody can't guess that. You really have to drive the process, I think. And I know we're kind of wrapping up now, and this is a good segue to my last question for you, Dennis, which is, like, I think for me, one of the biggest mistakes I see are people who just want to bury their head in the sand and leave things up to somebody else, or thinking like, my spouse is going to take care of me, my attorney is going to take care of me, or whatever. And that is, like, couldn't be further from the truth, because nobody cares about your life and what's next like you do, but you have to be informed moving forward. You can't make any decisions during divorce without having a clear understanding of where you are financially now and how that's going to change so that you can weather the huge changes, emotional and otherwise, that divorce brings. So I'd love to ask you, as my last wrap-up question, what do you think are like the top 3 mistakes you see people making during divorce?
I think probably number one is not getting the emotions under control.
Yeah.
There's so much emotional baggage there. And even if you had a relatively functional and a relatively functional relationship and a relatively amicable split, there's still a lot there.
Yeah.
Your whole life is changing. And you need to acknowledge that and get your arms around it, right? And then I think just not gathering enough information about the process early on. I think, clients come in and they're a clean slate in that they've never been through the process before and they don't know. So reach out now. Now, much more than ever before, you have access to free information from reputable sources about the process. Reach out to that. Yeah. Reach out, gather that information, and digest it. And it's not that you're going to take any single sources at face value and say, oh, yeah, okay, that's what I'm following. That's my path. That's it. You're going to do like we would do with any research, cross-section. Gather information, gather background, and then you can start moving in the right direction of making decisions for yourself. And then I think, as I alluded to earlier, I think it's before you thrust yourself into that litigation process, just make sure you're fully aware of what your options are, and you really give it a good try at getting something that's, moving through a process that's going to save you money, time, and aggravation. And, I'll have people say, well, Dennis, I can't do mediation because it's extreme domestic violence, or this person is a toxic person, and it just won't work for me. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. You and your soon-to-be ex with a single mediator probably won't work. But maybe you with a lawyer as an advisor, and them with a lawyer as an advisor, with a mediator in the middle would help, because then you have somebody who will be your strength, who will be your backbone, who will stand up for you, who will insist on the things that they know and together, you've decided together is a fair resolution in your situation. So there are a lot of different permutations of what you can do here. So just make sure you're exploring everything you can to avoid that $30, $50, $100,000 legal fee bill. And I've seen it before, and I've seen it more than that. And I've seen it years of litigation, and then post-judgment litigation. And then violations and contempt, and we have them pending now. So the last one is just try to explore as much as you can. Because think of it like this. An order that the two of you come up with together, no matter how difficult it was to get there, will more likely lead to compliance with the order than one that the judge said, this is my order and that's it, comply with it. Think about that.
Yeah. No, this is a perfect way to end things. And again, you also brought up, which I think you can't underscore enough, when you are hiring a family law attorney to represent you, that person has your best interests in mind. They are representing you. When you are hiring a mediator, that is a neutral third party who's really working on behalf of the divorce, right? They're not partial to you. They're not partial to your spouse. So I do always recommend to clients, if you are in the position to hire a local family law attorney, even as a consultant throughout the process, if you go to mediation, it's really the best investment you can make. But please educate yourself first, get on top of all the administrative stuff you're going to need. And also remember, you're not alone. Please utilize both of our information, our accounts. Dennis, I cannot thank you enough. I loved this conversation and I hope to do it again soon. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. I'll be posting this immediately everywhere you can find me, whether it is YouTube, Instagram, my blog, and making sure that you can contact Dennis. If somebody's watching right now, Dennis, and they want to get into contact with you to potentially work with you, how can they do that?
Well, they can check out my social media at DRV Law, or drvertranolaw.com is the website if anybody's in my area and they're looking for a lawyer, or the DRV Law Show podcast as well, right? Podcast, which is good. There's a lot of conversations there, but Yeah,
That's
great.
great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dennis. I'll see you soon. And thank you to everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great.
Thank you, Dennis. You too.